let's talk OSCE. For those of you who just started the process of applying as a nurse here in the UK, the OSCE is the last of the 3 exams you need to take, or as the English like to say, exams you need to sit. Hi, my name is Jarwin, and I'm a Pinoy nurse here in the UK. For today's video, we are going to talk about OSCE and the experience I had during the preparation and during the exam. I will probably be very frugal with tips on how to pass the exam because I'm planning on making a separate video for that. So, for this video, we will mainly be focusing on the experience as per my point of view, and hopefully you'll be able to visualize as I go through it. Now, before I continue though, let's first dissect the OSCE, and we're better to start than with the abbreviation. It stands for Observed Structured Clinical Examination, but I'm guessing you already know this, having done it when you were still a student. If not, then that's what it stands for. The exam, at least when I took it, is composed of 2 different parts. We have the API, and then again, I'd like to point out, when I took the exam almost 2 years ago, we had to do 2 nursing skills or procedures out of a possible 7. Now, the API stands for Assessment, Planning, Implementation, and Evaluation. That's basically the nursing process minus the diagnosis. Now, when me and my wife took the OSCE in 2018, we were still working in the nursing home. Now, I understand that employers offer different platforms in training or viewing for the OSCE. Some have scheduled study days in a week for a month or 2, while others longer. For us though, our employer used a third-party review center for our training. The training was for 3 days, and as you can imagine, those days were crammed with information to the point of me already having headaches by midday. After this 3-day training, we then booked our exam. And a week before the actual test, we did another 3-day training with the same review center. It's basically evaluating our readiness for the test. To sum it all up, we had 6 days of formal training and review, which was not really that bad considering the fact that we took the exam 3 months after we got to the UK. You see, a lot of pre-registered nurses wouldn't have that luxury because employers are usually in a hurry to get them registered. Even in our trust, nurses would usually get registered, or they would usually be scheduled for OSCE a month or 2 after they arrive in the UK. Me and my wife just got lucky because there weren't any earlier slots available for us at the time. Then again, like I said earlier, each employer is different. Now, because of our schedule, me and my wife rarely practice with the skills after a shift because we'd be too tired or knackered, as the English like to say. Now, we would allocate time to practice during our days off instead. As we got closer to the exam, our uneasiness and anxiety grew as well. And although we've already taken and passed several exams together, this was different because, I don't know, maybe because of how the test is made and laid out, or maybe because it was the nature of the exam. I can't really tell even to this day. This was when we started questioning ourselves, our readiness, our abilities, We were especially worried because we have been away from the clinical setting for several years, and you will probably get to this point too. And when you do, remember this: tell it to yourself over and over. they are looking for entry-level nurses, not intermediate or expert, entry-level nurses, beginners. Right? I don't know about you, but this helped me with my self-esteem, however little. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. I had so many bad habits with doing nursing procedures, and you know what they say, bad habits die hard. And this didn't help me at all when we were preparing for the OSCE, because I never got to perfect any of the skills, regardless of how many times me and my wife practice. And yes, I made myself a sort of a guide or script, as others would call it. As to why I did this, even though most people said not to, well, I like to call it insurance, a plan B in case I blanked out or couldn't find the words to say. So I did. I would usually miss some parts, like cleaning my hands again with alcohol gel, or asking for patient allergies, or declaring the surrounding is safe, but we continue to practice regardless. The key here is that we understand what we're trying to do with the procedure, and that we know how to protect the patient and ourselves from infection and harm. So practice until you find that rhythm. It makes all the difference. Okay, so test day. We went to the testing center a couple of hours before the exam, in case we got lost. Yeah. What a surprise! We did. It was raining, and they were doing some construction, so they had to reroute the pedestrians. It took us some 20 minutes before we were finally pointed to the testing center. So here's my advice. If you're like me, who can figure out which way is north, or just completely hopeless with direction, even with Google Maps, check out the place the day before. Or you can go early too, but if you do get lost though, well, hopefully not, but you may become so stressed out at finding the place, this might affect your performance during the exam. Just a recommendation. You can ignore it if you think it's not necessary. But you definitely have to go early, because this will give you the time to sit down and relax in the testing center. And more importantly, this will give you time to look around and test out some of the equipments you'll be using during the exam, because they'll be keeping them in the waiting area for you to test out. In our case, we got to the testing area about an hour and a half before, and after we did our identification checks and all that, we were told which skills we'll be doing in the exam. So this gave me the chance to practice them in my head, so go in early. Now, you may not necessarily start with the assessment. There's a chance you'll do one of the skills first. So be aware of this. So I started with API, the assessment, right? Of course, I had to be very careful with how I approached that station because that was my very first one. I entered, took in everything in that room, and asked questions about the controls of the equipment from the invigilator. Now, once I got that out of the way, I asked for another minute to gather my thoughts and to take a few deep breaths, then start. After 15 minutes in that station, I was told I was done, and I was asked to step out and to proceed to the next one. I went out, took a few deep breaths, and restarted my mindset. It's important you do this, especially if you think you didn't do well in that previous station. So what you do is you leave everything that station and move on with a fresh start. Take a few deep breaths and calm yourself. Take each station as they were individual tests. That's what I did. Now, planning came next. This is a writing station, so I had to write 2 care plans for the patient I just assessed. Again, another 15 minutes to do that station. If you're someone like me who doesn't like writing and have very bad handwriting, what a combination, right? Make sure to take the time to practice writing legibly. My hand was stiff after the exam, but it was okay because I still had time to rest up before the next writing station. The implementation came next, which is basically the medication administration station. I'm not particularly fond with pharmacology, so I paid extra attention to this station during practice. Now, if you're like me, then learning how to use the BNF or the British National Formulary is a must. This is the equivalent of the drug handbook that we use. So it's very handy for this station, especially when asked about a medication. Now the last one on the API is letter E, the evaluation. This is the second writing station. Now remember, API is linked together. All 4 stations are centered around one patient, the one you assessed. And with these writing stations, I had to make sure I write down my name, my signature, and my date with each document I make because this is very crucial in passing the exam. Now, when I finally got to the last 2 stations, the skills part of the exam, I had to keep telling myself I'm almost done. Breathe, look around, ask questions, breathe some more, then start. This is how I started each station. And when I'm done, I reset.
Stop!
I forget about the things I think I did wrong or forgot on the last station and move on with a fresh start for the next one. Again, what I did was I took each station as separate tests. Now, by the time I was done with the exam, all I wanted to do was go back to the hotel and sleep. It was a very tiring and stressful day, but we weren't done yet because we still had to fly back to Surrey right after the exam. The next day, I think about 9 a.m. because we slept in, me and my wife checked our emails and we found a confirmation we passed the exam. Oh my gosh. I can't put into words how much weight was taken off my shoulders when I finally read the email. All that emotion and realization rushing in. We passed. We won't have to retake the exam, We won't have to worry about being sent back home, going back home. We were overjoyed. All that stress taken and thrown out the window, We finally got our pin. And my God, it felt so good. Anyway, that's my story of how I passed the OSCE. And like I said, I've been very sparing with the tips about passing the exam because I'm planning on making another video for that, but I probably will not be able to make it until I get back from my vacation in the Philippines, or like my English colleagues like to say, holiday back in the Philippines. So yeah, I won't be able to make it until I get back from my holiday back in the Philippines. So once again, this has been Charon, and I'm Pinoy Nurse. here in the UK.